Resisting law enforcement. Under the Indiana Code is a person who knowingly or intentionally forcibly resists, obstructs, or interferes with the law enforcement officer or a person assisting the officer while the officer is lawfully engaged in the execution of that officer's duty. Forcibly resists, obstructs, or interferes with the authorized service or execution of a civil or criminal process or order of the court. Somebody could also be charged with resisting law enforcement if they flee from law enforcement after the officer has, by visible or audible means, including operation of a law enforcement officer's vehicle with their sirens and emergency lights, identifies themselves as a police officer. Now, that alone is a Class A misdemeanor. You can also be charged with resisting law enforcement if you are denied entry by a firefighter or an EMT or another law enforcement officer and you still enter areas that are barricaded or there are barriers around. Now that is a Class B misdemeanor. If you commit the offense by fleeing in a vehicle, that could be a level 6 felony. If you draw a deadly weapon in front of a police officer, like a knife or a bat or anything that could be construed as a deadly weapon, is also a level 6 felony. And inflicting pain or injury could also lead to a level 6 felony or even a level 5 felony. And there's also some situations where it could be increased even higher. If you're resisting in a vehicle and injure somebody, or if you injure the officer, that could include higher charges. So if there are weapons involved, if more people get hurt, or if an EMT gets hurt, this could change a misdemeanor charge into a higher felony charge. So one of the number one things we tell everyone is when you're pulled over by the police or stopped by the police, don't argue and don't fight with them, even if they are in the wrong. It could turn a simple traffic stop into an even worse situation for everybody involved. So if any officer asks you to step out of the vehicle, it's best to comply and step out of the vehicle. If they tell you to put your hands behind your back, it's best to put your hands behind your back. Now, you don't have to answer the officer's questions. You do have to identify yourself if they ask you who you are. You have to give them your ID if they ask you who you are, and if they ask for your ID. However, you don't have to answer questions if the officer is asking you questions without an attorney present. And you certainly don't have to submit to a search of your vehicle if the officer asks to search your vehicle. It's better for us to fight for you than for you to fight or argue with the police officer by yourself. And with resisting arrest, say the officer says, put your hands behind your back, and you refuse to do that, then they forcibly grab your arms and arrest you and you pull away. That alone could be considered resisting law enforcement. Now, there are certainly potential defenses that one can raise, that you didn't knowingly or intentionally pull away, that was a knee-jerk reaction and you weren't thinking about it and you just reacted. However, it is easy for the state to prove resisting law enforcement if the officer says that you pulled away when they put their hands on you to arrest you. So if you are being pulled over or stopped by the police, don't resist. Identify yourself if you're asked to identify yourself, but you do not have to answer any questions, especially you do not have to answer any incriminating questions. You don't have to submit to a search of your vehicle, and again, if the officer is in the wrong and you're being arrested for not doing anything wrong at all, let us fight for you. Don't fight by yourself. Because if you fight with the officer, resist with the officer, it could make a misunderstanding get even much, much worse for everybody involved. If you have any questions, please call Marc Lopez Law Firm at 317-632-3642. And always plead the fifth.